we were told about a horse who'd been dumped on a cattle farm. He was at risk of getting shot or rounded up and sent to the knackery to be killed for pet food if we couldn't catch him. We decided to go out and see if we could catch him, and we found that he was really, really timid. We also saw that he was amongst all these cows and he was eating cow pellets, which can be fatal to horses. So we came up with a bit of a plan, and some volunteers and some helpful people came out, and we first of all just didn't think we were going to be able to help. And then my daughter came up with an idea that was quite time consuming, but we ended up essentially making a large yard around this beautiful horse who we call Ulysses. This was the first time that he and I touched. So I tried to get him to initiate the touch so he felt in control of things. And you can see with the little white line behind, that's a non-electrified electric fence. So we'd set him up to be quite safe, and we were always monitoring him and looking at him and seeing what was his threshold and where was he at. So we found him to be quite curious, and he's got the kind of temperament of a wild horse and a young horse. So you can see in this photo he's a little bit bloated, and that's probably from the cattle food and from not getting proper nutrition. But you can see here he was quite open to putting the halter on, and getting up to this stage there were just a lot of very relaxed. We always wanted him to come back to a very relaxed state. Even if he got a little bit stressed, we just wanted to make sure that he could come back. And that was so he would stay safe, but also so we could build on what we were doing, because we were driving about an hour and a half each way to go and see him. And in these videos, I was pushing past what I would usually do because I could tell he was a little bit uncomfortable. But on the other hand, we didn't have a huge amount of options. So he wasn't interested in food, which I thought would have been an easy way that we would have been able to get him to follow us up into a yard or something like that. But he was terrified. The farmer had told us he was terrified of gates. They'd had 2 cowboys, I think, and a musterer out trying to catch him, and no one had been successful. So really what we did was work with him, and it took a lot of patience. But on the other hand, we had one long day that was a little bit tricky, but most of these days that you can see in this video, we were only there for maybe an hour or 2 hours. So and we were just watching him and listening, and we made a agreement with him even when he was out in the wild, not in the wild, but out on the large farm, that every time he looked at us with 2 eyes, so he turned his face towards us, we would just stop what we were doing, and we would all just look at the ground, which was showing him that we were not threatening and we were more submissive. You can see in the body language. So everything we did was very deliberate. So I was touching him a little bit more than I usually would a horse, because I can tell he was okay with it, but it wasn't really what I would usually do. But I was just seeing where he was at, because we didn't know his history. So we didn't know if he would wear this head stool or head collar. We didn't know once we got it on sometimes horses, once you put that on, they will just start leading, and it's very easy. And we needed to get him up quite a slippery, steep path to even get him close to the yards to even think about transporting him. So you might not see it unless you're really watching for it, but every move was very deliberate, and it was always about not moving towards him, and just watching his body language and mirroring him. So when he felt uncomfortable and stepped away, I'd step away as well. And it was a really fascinating experience for me, because I usually would have thought I'll give him some nice loosened hay, which is alfalfa hay or otherwise, and he'd just come along. But he was actually quite timid. He wasn't into food enough for us to use food. So here we are building a connection, and I wanted this beautiful horse who we've called Ulysses, which is or Ulysses, and I wanted him to initiate the first touch. And it was really, really cute because he was quite curious, and we just took it step by step. So I think this was the first day we really realized how timid he was, and we realized it'd be quite tricky. The second time amongst all the cows, I almost thought it wasn't possible. And this was the third visit where we had some beautiful helpers, and we've made this yard big enough for him to feel safe. And we had to be really aware of him, that we didn't give him a fright, that he didn't run through the electric fencing or anything like that. So everything was set up for him to be safe. And that's another reason we really needed him to keep calming down, even if he gets a little fright, just to keep calming down. So he might be doing what's sort of called shutting down now. Like he might be doing that, but he still had the option to move away. And we just wanted to know, can we get this beautiful horse off of here? So we couldn't even think about rehoming him until we knew a little bit more about him. So he didn't seem to have anything negative specifically from the rope and the halter. So he was more comfortable with us being at the front of his body than with him being along the side. So you can see after he was comfortable with his face getting touched, I started to do a little bit on the side of him and just see how he would tolerate that, and or even enjoy that